So, Tucker Carlson recently did this interview of a gentleman by the name of Bryan Johnson, right? And he's this tech guy, right? Millionaire tech dude who spends millions of dollars on his health. Okay, and it's cool, and that's one thing. But the thing that he was, I guess, what he's known for is like he's the anti-aging, beat death guy, right? So it's interesting. It's interesting. It was a very interesting interview, and there were a lot of things that I kind of found fascinating, and then some things I found kind of just like, I'm like, okay, oh boy, this is what this really is, right? So here, let me break it down. Oh, and think what you want about Tucker Carlson. I personally like him. I like Tucker Carlson. Do I agree with everything that he said? No. Do I agree with every interview he's had? No. But at the end of the day, he strikes me as a person who's a journalist, who tries to do journalism, right? And I gotta be real, that's more than what I can say for a lot of people out there, right? Like, journalism is almost dead, but that's a different topic. So, think what you want about Tucker, but he did a really good job in this interview. And I think the thing that made him, kind of stand out to me is the fact that he asked this gentleman, Bryan Johnson, questions that I think if anybody else asked him those questions, Bryan would have got offended, right? But Tucker asked these questions in such a way that it was almost like, he almost flippantly asked it, right? Because, with that weird laugh he has, and he's just like, and he really asked some questions that I think a normal person would have. Like, it was fascinating. It was good. I think he did a good job, though, all right? So they start the interview, and Bryan explains all the money that he's spending on his health and what he's doing and what does that lead to. And he basically has like blood biomarkers of an 18-year-old now. And all that's fun stuff, right? And his main goal, apparently, is to come up with a solution for death. And that's chock full of mess, right? Like, that's chock full of fallacies, that's chock full of and here's an interesting thing, right? In the interview, Bryan was he was cool, right? Like, it was almost like he was the kind of guy that you would actually want to sit down and talk with, right? Like, he didn't come off brash or arrogant or anything like that. But there were some things that really, really stuck out to me. While he had a calm demeanor, some of the stuff that he was saying was just like, what is going on? So let me get right to like the main thing that was just mind blowing to me, right? So he brings up all these stats and stuff like that, and they're talking. Him and Tucker are talking, and he basically came up with the way to slow aging down to a point that we're trying to solve the issue of death. And Tucker basically asked the question of, well, didn't God already do that? And I'm kind of summarizing a little bit here for the sake of this podcast, right? But it was like, basically, didn't God already do that? And that's what people believe. That's what Christians believe. They believe Christ did that. Absolutely, right? Boom. And he kind of just like, like paused, sat there and thought about it a little bit. And then he went on this whole thing about like the achievements of man. So that contrast is very interesting, and it's very dangerous, right? So he had basically he went over all of these stats and everything like that, and Tucker asked him about God, and what he came back with was more stats on man and what man is going to be able to do. So much so that he got to a point where he was like, okay, you know what? He didn't believe basically that there was a God and that humanity would be able to create God. Oh boy. That's all I can say. Oh boy. So we're going down this road again? Like you You really think you're the only dude that had this thought? You're the only person on the face of this planet ever in history to think. Hey, it's amazing to me how technology seems to get better, how humanity seems to get smarter, but we keep making the same stupid mistakes. Let me set that aside for a quick moment, right? Because I don't want to go in on this from a standpoint of like bashing Bryan Johnson, right? Like I don't want to be disrespectful or anything like that. But what I do see is an incredible amount of hubris, and to completely shut yourself off from that additional possibility coming from Mormonism, right? So he was a Mormon, and then he ends up all the way over here on this other thing. And I mean, there's a lot to be said for that too. I'm not going to say it though, but it was a very interesting thought. And it's kind of just like, okay, if you can't see your own arrogance in this, yeah, that's dangerous territory. That is dangerous territory. But it was interesting because then it was like Tucker kind of complimented him for the amount of wisdom that was coming from him, and you know that might be somewhat accurate, right? Because there's different kinds of wisdom, right? There's the wisdom that comes from the holy, right? There's the spiritual wisdom. There's the wisdom of man, right? Like, and that's what it is. And there's also, you know, if you believe in God of the Bible, and then you also believe that there's demons and fallen angels and things like that. And there's a separate set of wisdom over on that end as well. So it's interesting what Bryan came up with, right? And what he basically, you know, laid out there. Again, I found it to be very dangerous territory, full of fallacies, but it's okay, you know. It just that one kind of just like, whoa, buddy, slow down there, right? The next thing I thought was interesting, and it lends itself to a greater conversation on just, you know, these conspiracy theorists, right? So there was this part where he was explaining that he took the plasma of his son and injected it into himself, and then he took his plasma and injected it into his father. And, you know, now his dad has all these healthy biomarkers and everything like that. And it's just, it was interesting, right? So then, you know, he and Bryan and Tucker, they start, you know, kind of, you know, joking a little bit, right? And he was just like, wait a minute. So all that time that people were talking about, you know, rich people taking the blood of children, that's true, right? And I'm cracking up. And at this point, I'm cracking up at that, you know, at the way Tucker asked that question. But I'm also sitting there thinking like, oh, wait a minute. He definitely did say that he took the plasma of his son. He took the blood of his son, and he took his own blood, gave it to his dad. That's what rich people are doing. And he didn't deny it. He actually said there's data on it. Wait, whoa. So we got to slow this down a little bit. You mean to tell me all those cuckoo people that were saying that, oh, they're taking the blood of kids and injecting themselves in it to stay young they're really doing that mess? Yeah, apparently they're really doing that mess. Now, why do I even bring that part up, right? I bring that up because this was another thing that was labeled as a conspiracy theory, and that everybody was just like, oh, don't listen to this person. This person's crazy, right? Now, a few thoughts on conspiracy theorists, right? One thing I've noticed is that we don't listen to people anymore. And a large part of that is because we're so divided, right? We've separated ourselves in the camp so strong, whether it's because of race, gender, religion, political ideology, or just, you know, education, you name it. we've separated ourselves so much from the other that we don't even listen anymore. And the problem is we don't listen, therefore we don't learn. Because no one group is 100% right. Right? No one group has all the answers. We used to understand that. So you have these people out here who are saying all these conspiracy theories and saying all these crazy things, and come to find out, well, they were right. But no one listened to them. Why? Because they lined up different politically than most. So there's a certain idea of what and I don't want to go too deep into this right now, but there's a certain political faction that looks and acts a particular way, and everybody assumes that these people are stupid and they don't understand, and they're in whatever, and they don't do their research, they don't look at data, blah, 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 blah. And so they start mentioning stuff and it sounds crazy. But the thing is, most people, and this is the trouble we have in our times right now, you know, and it's just like, you won't listen to that person even if they're speaking the truth because you don't like them. So it was just like, I was just talking to one of my clients about this not too long ago. And it's just like, listen, there's wisdom and there's some truth found with everyone. It's just like, you can't go into it so biased, right? You can't go into it thinking, I don't like you, therefore I don't think what you say is true. And you just can't go into it like that. But we do, and we do every day. And that's part of the reason why we still have so much division. And it's like, or you take it the other way around. It's just like, I don't like your ideas, therefore I don't like you, right? And it's just like, what happened? You know, and it's just like, so, you know, let me pull back a little bit here, right? You have these conspiracy theorists who said stuff that ended up being true, but they got labeled as conspiracy theorists because people didn't really like them and they didn't like where they lined up politically. It's the same thing that happened with a lot of stuff surrounding COVID. Oh, we don't like you. Oh, so no. Or that's not the data. No. Oh, you're a scumbag for not getting the vaccine. No. Sorry, truth hurts. That is exactly what happened. And then, you know, now we see, again, hindsight. So, you know, that was another part that I thought was very interesting in that interview, right? So it's just that whole idea of, you know, this is what rich people do. Like, yo, like, I gotta find something else to do with y'all money. Do something else. Like you got cats trying to put chips in your brain and trying to link people's brains together, and I'm like, what are you doing? It was like, for the betterment of humanity. Okay. I mean, you know, and it might genuinely be that. I'm just, you know, kind of poking fun at it a little bit, but yeah. So I just thought that was, you know, interesting. It was a very interesting interview. And you know, there's certain things that really stuck out. I guess maybe the last thing that stuck out, not as much, but it stuck out to me a little bit, was, you know, Tucker was asking questions, and this is where Bryan Johnson had no answer. He had no answer at all whatsoever for why we self-harm or self-delete, right? Like, why do we do those things? Why do we do things that are the opposite of what's in our best interest, right? And you can't use evolutionary biology to explain that, right? Because evolutionary biology, the whole point of that and lining up with that is to say that we are doing everything in the best interest of the species surviving. That doesn't apply here if we do things that are the opposite of that. So why do we do that? And Tucker came from the point, and this is also where I come from. Basically, it's just like, well, there's external forces acting upon us, right? But Bryan Johnson, not believing that there is a God, basically says, right? Like, he didn't have an answer. And so I found that to be very interesting, very, very interesting. And again, here's this whole idea of evolutionary biology. And there are some valid points in that. And I don't want to sum it up into just like a soundbite and lose a lot of the nuance when it comes to that. But a lot of those red pill guys sign up for this too. And they just cherry pick certain parts, right? Like it's in man's biology or biological standard for a man to have multiple women, right? And don't get me, I already talked about that, but they use this idea of evolutionary biology as a support when it doesn't really support it. So that whole interview was very interesting to me. But that is our randomness for the podcast, for the episode. Okay.